Hey guys, it's Bernadette. I wanted to share with you guys my birth story, my labor and delivery story of Briella, our first baby, our first love, our first joy. She's our everything, I swear. Briella came out on August 5th. Her actual due date was August 10th. So she came out 5 days earlier. And the reason why she came out 5 days earlier, and I'm thankful she did, was because my doctor suggested in like the 3rd trimester of my pregnancy that we may have to be induced a week ahead. So like instead of being induced at 40 weeks, we're to be induced at 39 weeks. And the reason for that was because Briella was heavier than other babies that certain week that I was. So by week 39 I would be able to have a natural delivery because that's what I truly wanted. Mainly because I was scared of C-section, honestly. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what took place. I didn't know the healing process. I just heard they open you up, they take your baby out, you get stitched up, and that the healing process is a long time. So that scared me big time. So all started on August 3rd. We were to be induced at 4:30. Queen's Medical Hospital. They're supposed to insert the cervidil, and the cervidil goes like behind your cervix and it helps induce labor. August 3rd came and we were super excited. We got to Queen's I think at 4 o'clock. We couldn't wait. We wanted to get in. I was like, yes, let's do this. I didn't even know anything about induced because me personally, I get scared once I start to look up stuff. When I look up like procedures or things that I'm gonna go through, I get really scared. So I was more on a like, let's wing it, let's just do it, and then I'm gonna learn along the way kind of girl. And that's what we did, and it wasn't bad. So I was excited. We got there at 4:30. They put us in our room, they got us all set up, put the IVs, put the cervidil in, and the cervidil was supposed to be left in 12 hours. So it was a really long time. They said good thing that I came in the afternoon because I could just sleep just in case like things get aggressive, my contractions get aggressive, and then the next day they would be able to take it out and then we can go from there. But that didn't end up happening because I couldn't sleep that night. I had like a lot of pressure down in my vaginal area and it was really uncomfortable. Not only that, hospital beds are just not the comfiest ever, if you know what I mean. Like my tailbone was so sore throughout the whole process, I swear. From start till I left the hospital, my tailbone was sore. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have birthed Briella. So it's August 4th now in the morning. 12 hours passed. I had the cervidil in me for the amount of time that it needed to be in me. And then they checked me to see how far I was dilated, and I was only dilated a fingertip still. Now, mind you, when I went to be induced, I was still only a fingertip, and my baby was still very high. She was head down, but she was still very high. August 4th in the morning came, and they told me, oh, you're still dilated a fingertip, and your baby is still high. Your baby is like not in the birth canal yet. And then they told me, do you want to try? The Foley bulb will open you up to 5 centimeters at least. So I put the Foley bulb in on August 4th, and I had a lot of cramping and a lot of pressure down in my pelvic area. It was uncomfortable. But I prayed about it and I just tried to stay strong and think of the positive that was coming out. I didn't want the epidural just yet because I heard a lot of stories about the epidural and I was pretty scared, not gonna lie. I was scared that this needle, like if you move, it can mess something up. So I was just overthinking everything. And I decided, okay, maybe I'll just do it natural. I had the Foley bulb in me for, let's say, half a day, and I constantly went to the bathroom. I was in so much pain. It was cramping, it was pressure, and I don't mean to scare anybody, but this is just my experience. Everybody's experience is different. But yeah, there was a lot of cramping, there was a lot of pressure. I really felt like I was getting kicked in my stomach. And then I went to the bathroom and a lot of my mucus plug was coming out. I felt positive. I was like, okay, this means that she's coming soon. And then in the evening I went to the bathroom and my Foley bulb just came out. It like just comes out of you. So I called the nurse and the nurse told me that it was normal, that I might be dilated at least 5 centimeters if not more. So they checked me and it turns out that I was dilated 5 centimeters. The baby was still high and my cervix was still tough. So not only was the baby high, but my cervix was still slightly too tough. Like it was softening, but not as much as they wanted it to be. After the Foley bulb, they started Pitocin. And Pitocin is supposed to help with contractions. I actually did not know what contractions was. Everyone would tell me it feels like cramping, it feels like period cramps, or it feels like just a lot of pressure or tightening of your belly. During my last trimester, I found out that I actually had contractions and I didn't know, because I thought contractions hurt. I thought contractions was the feeling of her kicking. So every time I had a contraction, I was like, oh, the baby's kicking, oh, the baby's moving. But it wasn't the baby, it was my stomach contracting. So I was having a lot of contractions. They have like a monitor by your bedside that shows you the contractions, very aggressive or if it's not. And my husband was watching it like the whole time, and he would tell me, oh, did you feel that, did you feel that? And I didn't feel anything. I would think that was her moving. I'm like, oh no, I didn't feel that. I was blessed enough to not feel the full extent of contractions. Everyone's story is different. Again, this is just my experience. August 4th, I went to sleep. Well, I didn't really sleep because it was just uncomfortable again, you know, with the bed and just thinking a lot, very nervous and excited at the same time. So I couldn't sleep. 6 a.m. came, my doctor came, and he wanted to check how far I was dilated. Then he told me that I was still 5 centimeters, only 5 centimeters. Nothing changed. Cervix is still hard, well, harder than what it should have been, and the baby is still high. So I was still dilated, very little, still not in active labor yet, but I was having contractions. I was having consistent contractions, which is great. The only thing is that nothing was happening. My cervix was not opening, my baby still was not dropping. So he said, maybe let's try and pop your water bag since you're 5 centimeters. So he broke my water bag at 8 a.m. and I was in a lot of pain. No lie, it was intense. I think that's when I actually started to feel the contraction. The nurse recommended that I get the epidural because she told me, I told her I was a level 5 in pain, and she said it's best to try and get the epidural now, because when you're too squirmy and you move around too much, you know, that's not a good time to get it. You should get it now when you're not in too much pain, so that later you can just relax. Because they said that the epidural doesn't happen instantly, it takes a while to kick in. So I said, okay. I was scared and I tried it. So what they do basically is they tell you to sit on the edge of the bed and to lean over, slouch your body. And the nurse was in front of me and she told me to hold her hand. Luckily my husband was in there, and they just told me to breathe, and then they did it. And I heard like a weird cracking sound in my back, and that's what I do not like about the epidural. I do not like thinking about that cracking sound in my back. It sounded like bone cracking or something. I don't know. It just wasn't for me. I was like, oh, and I felt like a sharp pain going down my left leg, and I didn't know if it was normal. I was like, hey, there's a sharp pain going down my left leg, and he's like, okay. And I guess he put more medicine. I'm not sure what he did, but ended up it was really numb after a while. And actually my left leg was way more numb than my right leg. Like when I touched it, it felt like jello. I did not like that feeling too. I did not like the feeling of the epidural. When I touch my body, it just feels like jello. I felt like a big balloon. I don't know, it's a weird feeling being numb. I didn't like it. Shortly after I got the epidural, I felt super nauseous. I just couldn't move. I couldn't talk. Like I was just staying still. I was on the bed like, help me, I'm nauseous. Anyways, so they told me that they could give me either medication for the nausea or aromatherapy. And I told them I would want the aromatherapy to see if it works first. So they gave me like this little tab. It's like probably that big. I don't know if you can see. It's probably that big, and they put it on my hospital gown, and I felt better. I threw up a couple of times. I just laid on my side and I went to sleep. At least an hour each time I would take a nap. So that was great. That was probably the most sleep I ever got in the hospital. They didn't want to check you too much when you have your water bag broken because of risk of infection to you and your baby. So they try to check it very minimal. They checked me and they told me that I was still dilated only 5 centimeters and that the baby was still high. They recommended that I have this peanut ball. It's in the shape of a peanut, or the shape of like an 8, I would say a figure 8 or infinity, and they put it between your legs and you just like lay sideways. They put it between your legs. It looks like an exercise ball, and it's supposed to help open up your pelvic area so that your baby can, you know, make its way to your birth canal. Well, I did that for I think 3 hours and my legs felt stiff. My hips were really sore and still no progress. Nothing was happening. Everything was still the same. So now it's August 5th, 8 p.m. at night. My doctor comes in and he tells me, he checks to see how far I'm dilated. Still 5. My baby's head is starting to cone, starting to form to go into the birth canal. My water bag is broken. Contractions is still consistent, but not consistent enough. It's not in active labor. And he had told me that we can either wait till August 6th to see what happens, or we could do a C-section. So I told him, let's do a C-section, because I was scared of infection, to be honest. My water bag was broken, my baby's head was forming, she was trying to come, but I didn't see progress for like 2 days. So I told him, okay, let's do a C-section. I was in tears. I was like super scared. Thankfully, Queen's Medical Hospital allowed one more visitor besides my husband, so I called my mom. I opted for a C-section and we were very fast. The nurse gave Chance the proper PPE to wear. He had to wear like this white gown, this white suit, and then the hat. I don't know, I'll insert a picture here like of him with it on. So he had to wear all of that. They wiped my body down. The anesthesiologist came in, he introduced himself. He said, hey, my name is so-and-so. I kind of forgot, but he was the best one. He's so good. He was so good. He just went over what he's gonna do, what is the procedures, what to expect. They got me all ready for C-section. It happened really fast. They were really quick. And then they rode me into the operating room, which is like a room that's super bright. It's white. There's so much light. It's cold. And I asked for them to play Christian music because I am a Christian and I needed something to help me relax. I was super nervous. I didn't know what was happening. It happened all so fast. It was just like I opted for C-section and in an hour I was in the OR room. So it was pretty fast. So they got me into the OR room and I'm just laying there scared, praying. They get me prepped. The anesthesiologist numbs me and then he tries this thing where he touches my face with something wet and then he touches my stomach and he's like, is it wet? Can you feel it? Couldn't feel it, so that meant it was go time. They have this blue curtain up so you can't really see anything, and your husband or your spouse is allowed to sit by you, by your bedside, and you also have the anesthesiologist, so you're not alone over there. I really didn't feel anything. They told me you would feel pulling, tugging, and I didn't feel anything at all. I was just talking to my husband and then we took some pictures that I'll insert over here. So I was laying there for about an hour, just laying there. I was actually shaking really bad. I can remember that I was shaking terribly. I felt like I was super cold. That was one of the side effects. C-section or something. It said your body is in shock or something, so I was just shaking. And I was looking and I felt cold, and my anesthesiologist provided a lot of warm towels for me. My husband kept telling me it's okay, you're doing great. And he looked over once, he said, and he was like, no, not for me, not gonna look again, I'm done. And so she came out at 9:44. I heard her scream, cry. I heard her cry, which is normal. It was a happy moment for me. I was literally like tearing up. I was so proud that she was okay, I was okay, and we were doing it. And they took her in the back and they started to clean her up and, you know, all that newborn baby stuff. And she was quiet and I was like, hey, I told the anesthesiologist, because my husband went with the baby, I was like, hey, she okay? Like, I don't hear her crying. And he's like, oh yeah, she's fine, she's sleeping. I'm like, what? Okay. So the reason Briella could not come out like vaginally was because she was too big and her umbilical cord was stuck around her foot. Briella was 8 pounds 12 ounces 20 and a quarter long, but she was overall healthy, and that is what made me happy. My husband and Briella had to leave. They had to finish up all the newborn procedures, and my husband had to go with her. He couldn't stay with me because they're gonna close me up, take me to recovery. After that, after the C-section surgery, I went to recovery with this awesome nurse. She's so awesome in labor and delivery, and she took me to recovery. I laid there. I was nauseous, lightheaded, everything. Still cold. They had a heat light on me. I was there for an hour, and then I went to the postpartum area, and I was able to meet my baby at 1 a.m. in the morning. They brought my baby in. I was able to have skin to skin with her because in the OR room I only seen her for a minute. That was it, 1 minute tops. After that, I didn't see her for hours until she was done with her procedures and I was out of recovery. We had a night of bonding, lots of skin to skin contact, trying to latch her, getting to know our baby, you know, of course. At 6 a.m. they told me if I could stand up. And so, well, first they told me if I could sit at the edge of the bed. So I got up, sat at the edge of the bed. Then they said, can you stand up? I stood up. I was kind of dizzy, lightheaded, but it wasn't too bad. And then they said, well, can you take your first walk? And that first walk after a C-section, it kind of hurts. So I was able to walk. In fact, I walked in the hall, grabbed my husband some breakfast while he's sleeping, and I brought it back into the room. After that, I made it a goal to go home early. I did not want to stay too long in the hospital because it is during a pandemic, so it was tough. We could not have any visitors. We were first-time parents. We didn't know what we were doing. And our nurses, they were great, but they were super busy. They couldn't be with us all the time. I didn't know how to latch my baby. I was scared. I was nervous. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was doing the right thing. You know, and all those feelings are normal. If you are a first-time mommy and you're feeling that way, it's normal. Don't feel bad. I felt bad. My baby is 2 months old now and I feel better. After I walked, they said the next thing that I have to do to go home early is pee and move my bowels and fart. And you know, I didn't know that after birth, it's like I forgot how to pee. I did not know which muscles to contract to pee. I didn't know how to fart. It was very interesting, to be honest. I pushed myself. I made it a goal each day. The next day I told myself, okay, I'm gonna pee. I'm gonna try and move my bowels, and I'm gonna try and pass gas. The hardest for me was passing gas. I just could not find it in me to pass gas. I think I did not have enough food in me. Like, I only ate like a rabbit. I was only eating Jello the next day because they said don't rush into eating hard foods. You're gonna get upset stomach and whatnot. I was eating very small. I ate Jello, I ate soup, no solid food. The nurse came in and she helped me with what to do to recover at home too. She showed me how to wrap my body. She told me that yes, there's going to be vaginal bleeding. I did not know that with C-section. I thought with C-section you wouldn't because the baby did not come out of the birth canal. Okay, sorry, the camera cut off. There's like a maximum amount of time you can record. I was able to go home. So I gave birth on Wednesday. I was able to go home on Friday. One thing about C-section I just want to tell everybody is that the drive home is rough. I live in Hawaii and we have a lot of potholes in the road, a lot of bumps, and each bump was pain. Each speed bump was pain. Each pothole was just pain. I couldn't stand it, but it gets better. And the healing process gets better. You know, be sure to just stay at bed, rest, drink water, eat food, take care of yourself for real, because you'll need it. Actually, I'll do another video about C-section and like the recovery process, maybe like certain items you'll need that I thought was helpful for me and what you should expect and what you should do. Other than that, that's my birth story, and I was blessed to have Miss Briella now here with us today. She's 2 months old today. No, tomorrow, Monday. She's gonna be 2 months old, and we're super excited. Give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe. My baby's gonna be in more videos. Sorry, today she's with her dad and she's sleeping. She's downstairs, so I would bring her, but I kind of don't want to bug her. She had a long morning. We went for a walk. I'm also maybe gonna make videos about our morning routine, us walking, and her first times. But there's more to come, so stay tuned. Please let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about C-section. I'm always here for you guys. Bye.